Om. 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 Om Brahmanandam Paramasukadam Kevalam Jnanamurtim Dvandvatitam Gagana Sadrasham Tattvamasyadilaksham Ekam Nityam Vimalamachalam Sarvadhi Sakshi Bhutam Bhavatitam Triguna Sahitam Satgurum Tam Namami Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavat Padam Shankaram Loka Shankaram Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutra Bhashya Kritau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punah Sadashiva Samarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam Vande Guru Paramparam Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryankaravavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai Om Shanti 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 Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Chaiva Tato Jayamudirayet. Jai Gurudev.
Jai Gurudev. Hari Om. Brahmaraji, we start with chapter 7, first shloka chanting, no? First.
Yeah. Yes.
And kindly take over from 6:30.
No problem.
Yeah.
From your time 6:30. No, that's fine.
Correct. Yeah. Om Shri Paramatmane Namaha. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Maya Saktamana Partha Yogam Yunjan Madashrayah Asamshayam Samagram Mam Yatha Gyasyasi Tachrunu Jnanam Teham Savijnanam Midam Vakshamya Sheshatah Yajñatva Neha Bhuyonyat Jnatavyam Avashishyate Manusyanam Sahasreshu Kashidyatati Siddhaye Yatatamapi Siddhanam Kashinmam Veti Tattvataha Bhumirapo Nalo Vayuhu Khammano Buddhirevacha Ahamkara iti yamme भिन्ना प्रकृतिरष्टधा अपरेयमितस्त्वन्यां प्रकृतिं विद्धि मे परां जीवभूतां महाबाहो ययेदं धार्यते जगत् एतद्योनीनि भूतानि सर्वाणीत्युपधारय अहं कृत्स्नस्य जगतः प्रभवः प्रलयस्तथा मत्तपरतरं नान्यत् किञ्चिदस्ति धनञ्जय मयि सर्वमिदं प्रोतं सूत्रे मणिगणा इव रसोऽहमप्सु कौन्तेय प्रभास्मि शशिसूर्ययोः प्रणव सर्ववेदेषु शब्दखे पौरुषं नृषु पुण्यो गन्धः पृथिव्यां च तेजश्चास्मि विभावसौ जीवनं सर्वभूतेषु तपश्चास्मि तपस्विषु बीजं मां सर्वभूतानां विद्धि पार्थ सनातनम् बुद्धिर्बुद्धिमताम् अस्मि तेजस्तेजस्विनामहम् बलं बलवतां चाहं कामरागविवर्जितम् धर्माविरुद्धो भूतेषु कामोऽस्मि भरतर्षभ ये चैव सात्विका भावा राजसास्तामसाश्च ये मत्त एवेति तान् विद्धि न त्वहं तेषु ते मयि त्रिभिर्गुणमयैर्भावैः रेभिः सर्वमिदं जगत् मोहितं नाभिजानाति मामेभ्यः परमव्ययम् दैवी ह्येषा गुणमयी मम माया दुरत्यया मामेव ये प्रपद्यन्ते मायामेतां तरन्ति ते न मां दुष्कृतिनो मूढाः प्रपद्यन्ते नराधमाः मायया माययापहृतज्ञाना आसुरं भावमाश्रिताः चतुर्विधा भजन्ते मां जनः सुकृतिनोऽर्जुन आर्तो जिज्ञासुरर्थार्थी ज्ञानी च भरतर्षभ तेषां ज्ञानी नित्ययुक्त
One second,
एकभक्तिर्विशेषः
Bela. Sorry.
Yeah.
Jai Gurudev.
Jai.
Can you show the previous shloka once?
Chaturvidha.
Yeah. Chaturvidha bhajante mam jana sukrutinojuna artho jijnasurartarthi jnani cha bharatarshava.
Astu. Chaturvidha bhajante mam jana sukritinorjuna arto jignasurartharthi jnani cha bharatarshava. Shuddham va?
I couldn't hear all of it, but it's fine. Go ahead.
There is a voice breakage or okay?
I could not hear, ma'am. I'm not sure whether it's the problem from my side.
No, there is a notification coming on internet.
That's okay, Bela. Just that jnani, the little stretch on the knee is required. That's all. Yeah. Go ahead.
Chaturvidha bhajante mam jana sukritinorjuna arto jignasurartharthi jnani cha bharatarshava. I will just revise what we completed, the verse 16 yesterday, the meaning, and we will just browse through the text. O Arjuna, the people given to good actions who worship me are fourfold. They are the one in distress, the one who wants security and pleasure, the one who wishes to know me, and the one who knows me, O foremost in the family of Bharata. Sukritinaha janaha, the people who do good deeds, as a contrast to the dushkrutins, who do not seek the Lord. In this verse, Krishna tells us of the Sukritinaha janaha, those people who do good actions now or did them in previous lives. He says they seek me, bhajante mam, and it is because of the punya earned through their good actions that they seek me. Two types of punya. Brahmaraji, should I go through the whole text or just the heading? Yesterday we completed this, I think.
Yeah. I think
Artharthi, Jignashu, and
I think this was quite straightforward. No, there's no.
Yeah.
So you just go through the headings, should be fine. I think.
Yeah. Okay. So two types of punya, which Swamiji explained. 4 types of devotees as Artharthi. Then there is Artha, those who pray to God only when they are in the difficult situation. Artharthi, they have some sankalpa, they have some kamya karma for which they try to worship Lord. And there are Jignashus, those who want to know the Ishvara. And that's why they try to acquire the Jnana, and through Sadhya and Sadhan, they try to achieve the moksha. And Gnani, he is a God's favorite. He is a real bhakta. How the Gnani's devotion differs from that of all others? Because he considers himself as the Atma, the Paramas Prema Swarupa, the Satyam Jnanam Anantam, Ishvara and Atma. He recognizes that as himself. So I'll just read the last paragraph. For the Jignashu, however, there is a possibility of Ishvara becoming a Paroksha, and for the Gnani, he is a Paroksha because Ishvara, the cause of everything, is non-separate from Atma. Even though he is the Atma of everyone, only the Gnani appreciates it. Only he has an intellect subtle enough to recognize what is true for everyone. And the Jnani is distinguished here among the Bhaktas as a fulfilled Bhakta. The Jignashu is going to be fulfilled, and even the others will be fulfilled in time. Eventually, they will come to Ishvara. The Artha, the devotee in distress, will become an Artharthi and then a Jignashu because he has devotion. His recognition of Ishvara paves the way for his progress. Bhakti, devotion, is any type of union between Jiva and Ishvara. By a proper action or even a thought, you are uniting yourself to Ishvara. But Jnani doesn't try to make a bridge between Jiva and Ishvara. Gaining the knowledge, he finds that he is always united. There is only one thing there, that is Ishvara, that is Atma. There is no second thing at all to there is no second thing at all to unite with. So he is always united, Nitya Yukta, that is told in this next verse. So Bhagavan is so compassionate that he gives everyone the shelter. Now we will go to the next verse. Tesham Gnani Nitya Yukta Eka Bhaktir Visheshate Priyo Hi Gnanino Chatham Aham Sacham Priyah. Tesham, among these, Jnani, the one who knows me, Ek Bhaktihi, whose devotion is resolved in oneness, Nitya Yuktaha, always united with me. Vishishyate is distinguished, he, because Aham, I am Jnaninah, to the Jnani, Atyat, totally, Priya, beloved, Satya, and Mama Priyaha, is my beloved. I think we did this verse as well. Among these, the Jnani, always united to me, his devotion resolved in oneness, is distinguished because I am totally beloved to him and he is absolutely my beloved. I think we did this shloka as well. Yeah, we will just quickly read the text. We have done this shloka as well. The Jnani is always united to Ishvara. Tesham Jnani Nitya Yuktaha. Among these four devotees, the Jnani is always united to Ishvara. Jnani means the one who has immediate knowledge of the truth of Ishvara. He is a knower of the truth, Tattvavita. Because of this knowledge, he is always united to Ishvara, Nitya Yukta. This is a very important word here. As long as Ishvara is remote, Paroksha, one has to make a connection with him. If one has a certain recognition of Ishvara, one connects oneself by some prayer, a thought, a mantra, some meditation, or some act like a ritual. If the connection is for redemption from some distress, it is the connection of an Artha Bhakta. But it is not permanent, Nitya. He is united for now, later he will not be. It is the same for Artharthi. When he undertakes something important, he thinks about Ishvara and then begins that action. At this time, he is united to Ishvara. The Jignasu is more or less always united because his whole mind is consumed by the desire to know the truth. And the truth is Ishvara. Therefore, his mind is more often than not connected. As a mumukshu, he is a karma yogi and therefore has prasada buddhi. His attitude is, whatever action I do, it is all offered to you. Yat yat karma karomi tat tat tava aradhanam. He conforms to dharma because that is Ishvara for him. Therefore, he is more or less Nitya Yukta, more or less because he does not yet know Ishvara's truth, Tattva. So too, a renunciate, sannyasi seeking moksha is more or less a Nitya Yukta. The Jnani, however, is Nitya Yukta. There is identity between Ishvara and Jiva, and he recognizes that. This fact is revealed by the Shastra, which he exposed himself to as a Jignashu. Because of his desire to know, he inquired into the meaning of the Mahavakyas like Tattvam Asi, and these the identity is revealed. The one who understands that revelation is called the Tattvavita, the knower of the truth, and he is always united to Ishvara Nitya Yukta. Further, he is Eka Bhakti. For him, there is only Atma. Previously, he was also a devotee, but now his very devotion resolves into one Atma. The difference between Jiva and Ishvara is resolved, and in his understanding of the identity between Jiva and Ishvara, there is resolution of his devotion. His devotion to inquiry, etc., all resolves into that. Therefore, he is called Eka Bhakti and he is Vishishyate, distinguished as the most exalted among the four. The Jnani is distinguished. All of them are devotees, but the Jnani has a special feature that makes him stand out. This is told here not to set the Jnani apart as someone extraordinary. What is pointed out is the extent to which our devotion is to mature. It has to mature in a knowledge by which one becomes always united to Ishvara, Nitya Yukta. All the devotion should resolve in that knowledge. Therefore, the one who knows is distinguished, Jnani, Vishishyate. Bhagavan started off this chapter saying, Jnanam Sajnanam Vakshyamam. I will tell you about knowledge along with Vijnana. Here he says that the one who has that knowledge is a Jnani, the most exalted among the four types of devotees. Why is he so exalted? Why is the Gnani distinguished? When someone is in distress, he calls upon me, and for the time being, he is one with me. At that time, he considers me to be his only refuge. But it is only when he is in distress. So, what is he really interested in? Is he interested in me, or is he interested in getting relief from his distress? He is not interested in me really. He wants to make use of me like any other commodity. Because there is no other commodity that will release him, he resorts me. For him, I am another source of help that he makes use of, all for release from his plight. Being a samsari, he is subject to getting into one difficulty after another, and then he has to make use of all the help available, local as well as non-local. The non-local help is myself, Ishvara. Therefore, Bhagavan continues and says, it is not exactly that I am a value for him. The value is to get out of trouble. My value is that I am useful for that. I am a common tender like money for all the devotees for whom I am paroksha, I am not truly beloved, Priya. Even a Jignashu has not understood me. So I am not totally Priya for him either. For him, what is Priya is moksha. He wants release from bondage and therefore he invokes me. Only for the Gnani am I the most beloved. Priyah hi Gnyaninah Atyartham Aham. Because only he knows me as Atma, the object of all love. Atma is Ananda, the only value in the whole creation. It therefore becomes the object of all love. Here Krishna uses the word atyartha, absolutely. So for the Gnani, I am totally beloved. Atma is known to him as Sat Chit Ananda Atma, and all love resolves into that Atma. Ananda, the fullness, which is the nature of Atma, becomes love whenever there is a relationship. If the object to which he is related happens to seek a certain redress, then the love becomes service or compassion. The same love, as yesterday, Dr. Savita ji had brought to our notice. I read once again. Atma is known to him as Sat Chit Ananda Atma, and all love resolves into that Atma. Ananda, the fullness, which is the nature of Atma, becomes love whenever there is a relationship. If the object to which he is related happens to seek a certain redress, then the love becomes service or compassion. The same love keeps on changing into various forms. Emotionally, Atma being Ananda, and I being known to him as Atma, I am the most beloved for the Gnani. And that Gnani is also the most beloved to me. Atyartham sa cha mama priyaha. Atyartha is used for both Ishvara and Gnani. Therefore, the Lord says that he, the Gnani, is the most beloved for me because he is me. In the next verse, he says this, Gnani tu atmaiva me matam. He is my most beloved because he is myself, Chit Anand Atma. Priya is Atma. Why? Because Atma is the most beloved. So, Saha, he is Mama, my, the Lord's Priyaha, that is Atma. In these two verses, Krishna has shown that four types of people worship him. They are Artha, a devotee in distress, the Artharthi, the one who invokes him not only in distress, but also when he wants to accomplish something. The Jignashu who wants to know the Swarupa of Bhagavan, and the Jnani who knows the Swarupa of Bhagavan and knows that essentially he is not different from Bhagavan. Among these four, the Jnani is the most exalted. Even though they are all devotees, the Lord singles out the Jnani as the one who has accomplished what devotion can accomplish. All the others are united to him whenever they pray. But the Jnani is always united to him because he is a Tattvavita. He knows the truth of Ishvara as not separate from himself. Naturally, he is always united because of this knowledge that I am the Atma, and Atma being Ananda Swarupa, the object of absolute love. The Lord says, I am the most beloved to him and he the most beloved to me. Now, if this is so, what about the other three devotees? Are they not beloved to Bhagavan? उदारा सर्व एवैते ज्ञानी त्वात्मैव मे मतम् आस्थितः स हि युक्तात्मा मामेवानुत्तमां गतिम् सर्वे एव एते. All these indeed udaraha are exalted, jnani tu, but the one who knows me, Atma eva, is myself alone. Iti me matam. This is my vision. He, because saha, he, yukta Atma, the one whose mind is absorbed in me, mama eva, me alone, anuttamam gatim, the end beyond which there is no end, asthitaha, abides in, has reached. Sarve eva ete udaraha jnani tu atma eva iti me matam hi saha yukta atma mam eva anuttamam gatim asthitaha. All these indeed are exalted, but the one who knows me is myself alone. This is my vision, because he, the one whose mind is absorbed in me, has reached me alone, and beyond which there is no end. I repeat, all these indeed are exalted. The one who knows me is myself alone. This is my vision, because he, whose mind is absorbed in me, reached me alone, and beyond which there is no end. All devotees are exalted. Sarve ete udarah. All of these devotees are exalted. All of them recognize me. So, from the standpoint of those who do not recognize me at all, they are exalted. They are all mature people because they recognize me. This is what Krishna says. But Shankara takes it slightly differently. He takes the word ete, these, to mean the other three devotees, because Bhagavan has already singled out the Jnani as the most beloved. But the Jnani is myself. The Lord said, I consider the Jnani as myself. Jnani tu atmaiva iti me matam. If they are all exalted, why is the Jnani distinguished as the most beloved? Shankara says that there is no devotee of Ishvara who is not beloved to him. Each one becomes the recipient of his grace. But the Jnani is the most beloved because the Lord says he is myself alone. He is not separate from me. Therefore, he is definitely different. The others are also not different from me, but they have not recognized the fact. I have no partiality because I am already everyone. It is not that only the Jnani's Atma is my Atma. The fact remains for all. But because of the Jnani's recognition that Atma is Parmeshwara, he becomes me and I become him. I repeat the sentence. But because of the Jnani's recognition that Atma is Parmeshwara, he becomes me and I become him. Me matam means that is my vision. The word mata used in the sense of an opinion. It is very clear vision for Krishna. What he means by this is that the Jnani's Atma is not different from Krishna, the Lord. Therefore, the Jnani is the most beloved for the Lord. Why is the Jnani not different from Bhagavan? Why is this so? In answering this, he defines the Jnani. Saha hi yuktatma mam eva anuttamam gatim astitaha. He is the one whose mind is absorbed in me. Sa hi yukta atma. For that Jnani, the most exalted end, is me. Anuttama gati means an end beyond which there is nothing greater. In other words, there is no other end. And the Jnani, the one who accomplishes that end, who reaches me, is indeed the most exalted because he is myself. I read once again because there was too much of voice break. Why is the Jnani not different from Bhagavan? Why is this so? In answering this, he defines the Jnani. Sa hi yuktatma mam eva anuttamam gatim asthitaha. He is the one whose mind is absorbed in me. Sa hi yukta atma. For that Jnani, the most exalted end is me. Anuttamagati means an end beyond which there is nothing greater. In other words, there is no other end. And the Jnani, the one who accomplishes that end, who reaches me, is indeed the most exalted because he is myself. We can also take Anuttamam Gatim Asthitah as the one who remains in this end of all ends, the one who is established in this knowledge, who has Jnana Nishtha. That Jnani is indeed the most exalted because he is not other than Ishvara. The praise of the Jnani here is to point out that devotion is meant only for this knowledge. There is a claim that Jnana is for devotion. The thinking is that you must know Ishvara so that you can have devotion for him. But if I know Atma as Ishvara, the devotion resolves. Till then, it is devotion. Its culmination is knowledge. So it is clear that devotion is not after knowledge, it is before. Devotion is for the sake of knowledge, and knowledge itself is devotion. The definition.
Bella, I can take over if you have to leave.
Yes, my dear, kindly.
Yeah.
Could you please read the last bit again? Thank you.
This praise of the Jnani. No, do you want me to take over, Bella? You can leave.
Yeah, kindly.
Yeah, the praise of the Jnani here is to point out that devotion is meant only for this knowledge. There is a claim that Jnana is for devotion. The thinking is that you must know Ishvara so that you can have devotion for him. But if I know Atma as Ishvara, the devotion resolves. Till then it is devotion. Its culmination is knowledge. So it is clear that devotion is not after knowledge. It is before. Devotion is for the sake of knowledge, and knowledge itself is devotion. So that bhakti is required initially. Recognition of Ishvara is important. And from that, you pursue knowledge. And once you resolve, and once it culminates in knowledge, that bhakti, total bhakti culminates in knowledge, that you appreciate Atma as Ishvara, you know that yourself as Atma and Ishvara, then that devotion resolves. Then there is no duality. When you talk of devotion, there is me and Ishvara, me and Atma. There are two things. But when the knowledge, with knowledge, it culminates in your recognition that you're none other than Atma or Ishvara, then that devotion resolves. There is no two, no duality. So devotion is always before knowledge, and it is for knowledge. Devotion is for the sake of knowledge. That is why when they say there are different margs, bhakti marg, jnana marg, actually it is, they culminate. The bhakti marg leads you to jnana marg, and that is the culmination. The definition of bhakti is parama prema swarupa. Prema means love. So parama prema swarupa is absolute love. Between the object of love and the one who loves, there is no difference whatsoever. When there is a love, then there is no other, ananya. The devotee and the altar of devotion are one and the same. That devotion is nothing but knowledge, jnana. Expressing the same thing another way, this is sadhya bhakti, an end in itself, the fulfilled devotion of the jnani. This paragraph explains why the jnani is also put in those 4 types of devotees. Actually, he is not a devotee in the true sense, but because he has this parama prema swarupa, that he has that culmination of bhakti, absolute love he has, he is no different from Atma. But because that is also an aspect of devotion, they have put him also as one of those categories of bhaktas. Because for him, at the altar of devotion, when there is a love, then there is no other. The devotee and the altar of devotion are one and the same. The devotion is nothing but knowledge, jnana. That devotion. It is not the devotion of the artha, arthati, or a jignasu, which is time-bound. Only when they require, they remember Ishvara. So their devotion comes in spurts. Whereas for the jnani, it is total. It is absolute. It is always there. He's always connected. There is no difference between him and Ishvara. In the next verse, the jnani is again praised. Bahunam janmanam ante jnanavan mam prapadyate vasudeva sarvamiti samahatma sudurlabhaha. Bahunam janmanam, of many births, ante, at the end, jnanavan, the one who has knowledge, vasudeva sarvamiti. Vasudeva is everything. Thus, mam prapadyate, reaches me, saha mahatma, that wise man, sudurlabhaha, is very rare. At the bahunam janmanam ante jnanavan vasudeva sarvamiti mam prapadyate sudurlabhaha. Sa Mahatma sudurlabhaha. At the end of many births, the one who has knowledge reaches me by knowing Vasudeva is everything. That wise man is very rare. At the end of many births, Bahunam Janmanam Ante, the wise man, Jnanavan, seeks me, Mam Prapadyate. Does this mean that if you begin in this life, you will become a Jnani only after a number of births? No, Shankara says here that the word Bahunam indicates a number of births wherein one had gathered enough punya conducive to knowledge. One has any number of births before one begins to recognize the fundamental problem and seek a solution. The word Jnanavan can be taken in two ways. He can be the one whose mind at the end of many births is mature enough to gain this knowledge. Because of his maturity, he seeks me, Mam Prapadyate. Such a person alone becomes a Jnani. Or Jnanavan is the one who has the knowledge. He reaches me. Everything is Vasudeva. How does he reach Bhagavan? Because of his knowledge, he understands Vasudeva alone is everything, as himself. Vasudeva Sarvam. Vasudeva is non-separate from Atma. So the gain is a recognition of the identity between the I of the Jiva and the I of Ishvara, and sees that all that is here is Vasudeva. Everything is non-separate from that cause. And the product, the creation, is Mithya. It has no existence apart from its cause, which he recognizes as Satya. And he sees very clearly that the only Satya is Atma, which is Brahman, and recognizes therefore that everything is Vasudeva. In this knowledge, he reaches me. This makes it very clear that devotion after knowledge is not what is meant here. If Vasudeva is everything, he cannot be separate from me. If he is minus me, he is not everything. And he would also be anatma, which, as we have seen, would mean he is inert, jada. If Ishvara is inert, he depends entirely upon me to be known, like any other inert object. But it is not so. Everything depends on Atma, the only thing that is real, the Satya Vastu. And Atma happens to be Ishvara. Therefore, you can say, I am all this, ahamidam sarvam. This is what the Shastra says throughout in various ways. All this is Brahman alone. There is no multiplicity here at all. Sarvam khalu idam brahma neha nana asti kinchana. And further, without the world, Atma is whole, Purna. And with the world, it is whole. Purnamadah, Purnamidam. Wholeness is not going to be improved upon. Therefore, the world being Mithya is not an addition to Brahman. It is dependent on and non-separate from Brahman. And Brahman itself has not undergone any change whatsoever to become the world. Without Brahman, there is no world either. Without a reality, there is no Mithya. Let me know if I should repeat any of these paras here.
Adi, could you read the last para, please? This is what the Shastra says.
Yeah. This is what the Shastra says throughout in various ways. All this is Brahman alone. There is no multiplicity here at all. Sarvam khalu idam brahma nevanana asti kinchana. And further, without the world, Atma is whole, Purna. And with the world, it is whole. Purnamadaha Purnamidam. The whole Purna mantra goes this way. Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. So actually it says Purnamadah. This is whole, that is whole. Purnasya Purnamadaya. From Purna, if you take away Purna, what remains is Purna alone. So wholeness is not going to be improved upon. Therefore, the world being Mithya is not an addition to Brahman. It is dependent on and non-separate from Brahman. And Brahman itself has not undergone any change whatsoever to become the world. Without Brahman, there is no world either. Without a reality, there is no Mithya. If you
Thank
remember the snake and the rope example, the mirage and the waters on the road, all of this, there is a reality. The rope is a reality. The snake is a superimposition. So the snake does not have its existence apart from the rope. The only thing that exists is the rope, that is Satya. But when you are superimposed and you have the illusion that it is a snake, the snake is also true for you. At that point, that snake is Purna. The recognition of the snake is Purna. But the rope is also Purna. So this is whole, that is whole. But then the only thing that is causing this illusion, this mithya, is that veil of ignorance, which is what is slashed with knowledge. So I actually want to read the previous paragraph also, where he talks about I will actually read this whole thing. Everything is Vasudeva. How does he reach Bhagavan? Because of his knowledge, he understands Vasudeva alone is everything as himself. Vasudeva Sarvam. Vasudeva is non-separate from Atma. So, the gain is a recognition of the identity between the I of the Jiva and the I of Ishvara, and sees that all that is here is Vasudeva. Everything is non-separate from that cause. And the product, the creation, is Nitya. It has no existence apart from its cause, which he recognizes as Satya. And he sees very clearly that the only Satya is Atma, which is Brahman, and recognizes therefore that everything is Vasudeva. In this knowledge, he reaches me. Reaches me meaning he becomes him. He dissolves in him. There are no two there at that point. This makes it very clear that devotion after knowledge is not what is meant here. It is not like you know Atma and then you develop devotion towards him. If Vasudeva is everything, he cannot be separate from me, because I'm also included in that everything. If he is minus me, he is not everything, because then it becomes meaningless. There's no meaning. And he would also be anatma, which, as we have seen, would mean he is inert or jada. Because everything that is anatma is inert, is jada. If Ishvara is inert, he depends entirely upon me to be known, like any other inert object. But it is not so. Everything depends on Atma, the only thing that is real, the Satya Vastu. And Atma happens to be Ishvara. Therefore, you can say, I am all this. Ahamidam Sarvam. Does anyone want to say or add anything to this?
Thank you, Dee.
Now, how the Shastra reveals identity. Badhayam samanadhikaranyam. To reveal this, Shastra uses a linguistic method called Badhayam samanadhikaranyam. The word samana means the same. The word adhikarana means locus. When two things have the same locus, then one is said to be a samana. Samana adhikarana with reference to the other. The condition in which two objects enjoy the same locus is called samanadhikaranya. There's a footnote there. Samanam adhikaranam yayoho tayoho bhavaha samanadhikaranyam. So basically what he's saying is, when it is a method in which when two things have the same locus, then one is said to be a samana adhikarana with reference to the other. The condition in which two objects enjoy the same locus is called samanadhikaranya. There are two types of samanadhikaranya. In a blue pot, both the blue color and the pot are in the same locus. They have the same adhikarana. Similarly, when you say Rama is a musician, both Rama and the property of being a musician reside in the same locus. Rama is the musician and the musician is Rama. A is B and B is A. Therefore, there is samanadhikaranya between A and B. But when we say the world is Brahman, the situation is different. The world is Brahman, all right, but Brahman is not the world. A is B, but B is not A. This kind of samanadhikaranya is called badhayam samanadhikaranyam. To illustrate, let us consider the following situation. Suppose a stump of a tree is mistaken for a person. Then someone who knows that it is not a person points out that it is not a person, but a stump of a tree. He says, Sthanuhu ayam purushaha. This person is a stump of a tree. It means what you see as the person is a stump of a tree. In Sanskrit, both the word person, purusha, and the word stump, sthanu, have the same case ending. This indicates that they have the same locus. But are they two things here? No. What is referred to as a person, purusha, is the stump of a tree, sthanu. First you see it as the person, and then the person resolves into the stump. The person does not qualify the stump, like blue qualifies the pot. The person resolves into the stump. This kind of samanadhikaranya, in which one is negated, that is, one resolves into the other, is called badhayam samanadhikaranyam. And the Shastra uses this technique of badhayam samanadhikaranyam to explain the fact that what we perceive as the pluralistic world is in fact one non-dual Brahman. This is very profound, no? It's a lot of logic over here, a lot of tarka. I'll just read the other para and I'll maybe read this one more time. This is what is said here by the statement Vasudeva Sarvam. The word Vasudeva we have seen is the one in whom everything has its being and who is in the form of consciousness, Chaitanya. Vasu is the one in whom everything exists, by whom everything is sustained. It causes everything to exist in itself and is the basis of every existence. And Vasu is Deva. Its own nature is pure consciousness, Deva. From the standpoint of the world, it is Vasu, the cause of everything. And from its own standpoint, it is in the form of consciousness, Deva. This Vasudeva itself is Vasudeva. That is why it is only oneself, the conscious being, Pratyagatma. I think sometime back we had a doubt of what is this Pratyagatma. So it is that one, that only, the conscious being. Therefore, his knowledge is, I am everything. Aham idam sarvam, or Vasudeva is everything. Vasudeva sarvam. In this way, he reaches me. I'm just going to read this whole thing one more time. Badhayam samanadikaranyam. So to reveal this identity between Jiva and Brahman, the Shastra uses a linguistic method called Badhayam samanadikaranyam. The word samana means the same. The word adhikarana means locus. When two things have the same locus, then one is said to be a samana adhikarana with reference to the other. The condition in which two objects enjoy the same locus is called samanadhikaranya. There are two types of samanadhikaranya. In a blue pot, both the blue color and the pot are in the same locus. They have the same adhikarana. Similarly, when you say Rama is a musician, both Rama and the property of being a musician reside in the same locus. Rama is the musician and the musician is Rama. So if you understand it as two rays and they have a same point. So Rama is, you're talking at this point. He is Rama and he is also musician. So both converge at the same point. So similarly, blue pot. There is a pot which is blue. So the pot is blue and the blueness is in the pot. So both mean the same. It points to the same locus. So A is B and B is A. Therefore, there is samanadi karanya between A and B. But when we say the world is Brahman, the situation is different. The world is Brahman, all right, but Brahman is not the world. So here is the twist over here with respect to Brahman. A is B, but B is not A, which is what Krishna says in the verse previously. I am in the world, but the world is in me, but I am not in the world. Also in, I think, chapter 9 it comes. So this is a little confusing thing, but this is what is resolved by this Badhayam Samanadikaranyam. So this kind of Samanadikaranya is called Badhayam Samanadikaranyam. To illustrate, let us consider the following situation. Suppose a stump of a tree is mistaken for a person. Then someone who knows that it is not a person points out that it is not a person, but a stump of a tree. He says, Sthanuhu ayam purushaha. This person is a stump of a tree. It means what you see as the person is a stump of a tree. In Sanskrit, both the word person, purusha, and the word stump, sthanu, have the same case ending. This indicates that they have the same locus. But are they two things here? No. What is referred to as a person, purusha, is the stump of a tree, sthanu. First you see it as the person, and then the person resolves into the stump. The person does not qualify the stump like blue qualifies the pot. the person resolves into the stump. This kind of samanadikaranya is one in which one is negated. That is, one resolves into the other is called badhayam samanadikaranyam. And the Shastra uses this technique of badhayam samanadikaranyam to explain the fact that what we perceive as the pluralistic world is in fact one non-dual Brahman. This is what is said here by the statement Vasudeva Sarvam. The word Vasudeva, we have seen, is the one in whom everything has its being and who is in the form of consciousness Chaitanya. Vasu is the one in whom everything exists, by whom everything is sustained. It causes everything to exist in itself and is the basis of every existence. And Vasu is Deva. Its own nature is pure consciousness, Deva. From the standpoint of the world, it is Vasu, the cause of everything, and from its own standpoint, it is in the form of consciousness, Deva. This Vasudeva itself is Vasudeva. So Vasudeva is what? The one in whom everything has its being and who is in the form of consciousness, Chaitanya. So Vasu is the one in whom everything exists and Deva is consciousness, is Chaitanya. So Vasu, the cause of everything, from its own standpoint, consciousness, Deva. This Vasudeva itself is Vasudeva. That is why it is only oneself, the conscious being, Pratyagatma. Therefore, his knowledge is, I am everything. Ahamidam sarvam, or Vasudeva is everything. This aham is same as Vasudeva here for the Jnani. Vasudeva sarvam. In this way, he reaches me. I'll just read this one last para. The one who has this knowledge is very difficult to find. Samahatma sudurlabha. Such a Jnani is sudurlabha, very hard to come by. He recognizes me as the Atma of all beings. So, his Atma is Mahan, great, limitless. One who has that knowledge is called Mahatma. Generally, the word Mahatma is used for any sadhu, any saint. In that case, the word Atma refers to the Antahkarana, and the word Mahatma indicates a person whose mind or heart is very big. But here, because of the context, Mahatma is the one whose Atma is Brahman. There is no one equal to that Mahatma because you cannot improve upon limitlessness. He is a Mahatma and he is very difficult to find. This is why, even though all are beloved, the Jnani is distinguished. In this verse, Krishna has said that it is very difficult to find a Mahatma who knows everything as Vasudeva. Even though only devotees are being discussed here, all of them are not able to recognize Vasudeva as Atma. Why is it so difficult to recognize that the Lord is everything? This is the reason, which is the next verse. So should we stop here and do Manana? Let's close our eyes. I will just read the previous shloka once so that we can. We covered 2 shlokas today. Udara sarva evaite jnani tvatmaiva me matam astita sahi yuktatma Mamevanuttamangatim. All these indeed are exalted, but the one who knows me is myself alone. This is my vision, because he, the one whose mind is absorbed in me, has reached me alone, the end beyond which there is no end. Bahunam janmanam ante jnanavan mam prapadyate vasudeva sarvamiti samahatma sudurlabhaha. At the end of many births, the one who has knowledge reaches me by knowing Vasudeva is everything. That wise man is very rare. So let's just close our eyes and reflect on these two verses. Jai Gurudev. Let's all share our understanding. So he's actually continuing to describe the Jnani. Why is he, the previous verse before this, he was saying he's the most dear to me because he reaches me. Why is the Jnani so distinguished? Well, I think we did even this, no? 17. Tesham Jnani Nitya Yuktaha Eka Bhaktir Vishishyate Priyo Hi Jnani Notyartham Aham Sacha Mama Priyaha. Among these, the Jnani, always united to me, his devotion resolved in oneness, is distinguished because I am totally beloved to him and he is absolutely my beloved. So the Jnani is always united to Ishvara because he recognizes himself as him. There are no two, he is already in the Advaita Bhav. And therefore, I think he goes on to describe that Bhakti is not after knowledge. Absolute Bhakti is equivalent to knowledge. There is no difference. That absolute Bhakti is Parama Prema Swarupa. The Jnani is in that space, that state. So that absolute Bhakti is not different from knowledge because he sees himself in everything and like that Vasudeva Sarvamidam. Aham Sarvam Idam. I am in everything. He sees himself in everything. Whereas for all the other three, the Artha, Artharthi, and Jignasu, the bhakti is not absolute. It is time bound. It is condition bound. It is situation bound. Only when they are in distress or when they require to achieve something, or the Jignasu also, he only wants to attain moksha. So he still considers himself separate from Ishvara. He has not reached that state yet. Whereas the Jnani is a Nitya Yukta. He's yoked to. There is no difference. He resolves into Atma or Ishvara. And he's got that Eka Bhakti. Yeah, does anyone want to share anything? But at the same time, Krishna is not looking down upon any of the other devotees. He is not saying, because Jnani is dear to me, all the others are not dear to me. All these are indeed exalted. He's also giving them their due spot. But the one who knows me is myself alone. So he's like bringing them on the same page, but he's saying, see, don't stop here. Don't just stop being an artharthi, or a jignasu. Evolve further into becoming a jnani. And the previous few verses, he has given the guarantee that an artha, even to become an artha, is much better than becoming than continuing to remain a dushkritin. We've learned those three different states, like Utkrishta, Adhama, and Madhyama. So Utkrishta are those people who recognize Ishvara and who are the exalted ones, whereas the Adhama and Madhyama are those that are still in the fold of the sense objects, and they're caught up in doing adharmic things. So better than that is to become a devotee, an artha. And then he goes on to explain the 4 types of devotees. So it is part of evolution that from the dushkritin you become a sukritin. You start doing good deeds. You recognize Ishvara. That itself is a change in the thinking. That is what Swamiji had mentioned. The evolution is the change in the thinking, and that you recognize Ishvara. And from then on, you carry forward. And he gives a guarantee that a jignasu will become a jnani in time, in due time. Which is why he says, Bahunam Janmanam Ante. After several years, several births, the one who has this knowledge reaches me. So we don't need to worry, oh, after how much time will I become? It will happen. And that beautiful logic, the Badhayam Samanahadikaranyam, in that with respect to the world, A is B and B is A. With respect to the blue pot, there is a pot which is blue. So they have the same locus. So the pot is blue, and how should I say that? The object that is there, whatever is the blue object is the pot, and the pot is blue. So both have the same locus. So therefore you can conclude that A is B and B is A. Whatever that object that is blue is a pot, and that the pot is blue. So the blue color actually qualifies the pot. Whereas with respect to Brahman and the Jiva, one gets negated. Like the trump and the tree. So with the knowledge that the stump of the tree is not the person resolves into the stump. So when you recognize A as A, that B no longer exists. The B dissolves into the A. There is only A that exists. There is no B. And this happens with knowledge. This happens when that recognition happens. So therefore, this Badhaya Samanadikaranyam with respect to knowledge of Brahman.
Jai Gurudev.
Yes, Savitri.
This thing, the Badhayam Samanadhikaran Karyam is, if we relate it to the Atma and Anatma, to the example of the stump of tree, that the stump is the Atma, and the Anatma, we are superimposing that person over that stump.
Correct.
And we think it as Like it's when you get that self knowledge, then you can differentiate that the Atma includes both like Anatma is resides in Atma, but Atma is not Anatma, right?
Correct. Correct. For instance, in this example, the person is in the stump. Because of the stump, the person is. But the stump is not in the person. Like the snake and the rope, the snake is because of the rope. But the rope is not in the snake. The rope has its independent existence, which is why I think yesterday or day before when we were reading, how Ishvara is in everything. I mean, everything is in Ishvara, but Ishvara is not, because he does not require the world for his sustenance. Ishvara does not require the world for his existence. He is existence. He is Satya. He is Nitya. Yeah, this Purnamada Purnamidam is another beautiful verse for contemplation. So, does anyone else want to add to this? Very beautiful. I'm actually reveling in this chapter 7. So 6 and 7 are like really, I mean, that way every shloka is so beautiful. Every chapter is so beautiful. And there's one who has this knowledge is very difficult to find. So we've stopped at a very crucial point where now Bhagwan is going to explain why is it so difficult to recognize that the Lord is everything. And he's going to give the reasons. कामैस्तैस्तैर्हृतज्ञानाः प्रपद्यन्तेऽन्यदेवताः तं तं नियममास्थाय प्रकृत्या नियता स्वया. We'll do this tomorrow. Which is, I think, coming to that Eka Bhakti. Let's do this tomorrow, right? So should we go to chapter 6 and do the verses there?
Before we go to chapter 6, I just wanted to state what we did just now today.
Yes.
Regarding finding Vasudeva accepts everybody, like he loves everybody, whether you are a Jnani or not a Jnani, even if you are remembering him only in times of need. And I just correlated. I had talked about an incident where I had taken away a teacher's manual and cassette, and Gurudev sent a word from a Swami that treat him with compassion. And then I sent back to the Swami all this thing that he has undergone psychiatric treatment, he has undergone counseling, then he's been coming over. I sent his wife to the ashram for 1 month seva. She has come back. Then again she went for doing Sayam. So the wife also needed solace. She was also impacted by what he had done. So and whatever action had been performed, whatever I had led them into doing. So I was already treating with compassion, like he is coming over to my house. Once or twice he just came, he would leave a muskmelon and run away, sort of. But then I would call him in, like, come, sit and all that. And then, that full rehabilitation is taking place for him. Jai Gurudev. The word that Gurudev used was compassion. Treat him with compassion.
So beautiful, no? So that's where yesterday when we read the Jnani, the love of the Jnani, when a person is in redress, is in trouble, is in distress, it changes to compassion and service. It's absolute love. But it takes its pure. And I was reminded when Bela was reading today, I remember in Rishikesh when Gurudev was giving his darshan in the darshan line, there was one couple who was in very deep trouble. They were in deep distress. So he actually took them outside of the darshan line and was giving, he gives his full attention to everyone every time he meets anyone. But for this, what came to my, stood up very, very prominently was they were literally in tears, and he was like with listening to them with all that all that attention, and he gave them all the time required. So the jnani comes only from the space of love and compassion. This love itself flows into different other human values like compassion, helpful, being helpful. And one other word of caution there he speaks of in the Patanjali Yoga Sutras is, when people come to you to share their grief, don't sympathize with them. Then you will be sucked into them. You just have to keep your center and have just compassion. Otherwise, I know I'm just deviating a little bit, but just because we're talking about compassion and redress and all that, because that is important. So it's important for us to keep our center and yet come from the space of compassion. Yeah.
I also have one more thing to say, that in all this, like when we are following on the path, like when Guruji says, no, one person's sadhana affects the entire family. Like even my wife had the similar thought process. And she's also forgiven him, and she's also showing such a lot of compassion for him, talking to him. And she was also present when all this incident happened in my house. So, I mean, that is so wonderful. Like the knowledge indirectly has flown to her also. And it has come to her also so naturally, like, and that is so wonderful. Walking on the path together.
Yeah, a lit candle lights another, no? And that is how the waves of happiness, waves of love spread. So should we go to chapter 6? We have about 6 minutes left. I think did we start reading? I don't think we started reading the PDF. We only discussed yesterday also.
No, we didn't start reading.
So should I read the shlokas once and then we'll start the PDF? Yam labdva cha param labham manyate nadhikam tataha yasmin sthito na dukkhena gurunapi vichalyate tam vidyat dukkha samyoga viyogam yoga sangitam sanishchayena yoktavyo yogo nirvinna chetasa. Cha and yam labdva, having gained which, tataha adhikam, better than that, aparam, other, labham, gain, na manyate, does not think, yasmin, in which, stitaha, established, guruna api dukkhena, even by a great sorrow, na vichalyate, is not affected. Tam, that, dukkha samyoga viyogam, disassociation from association with sorrow, yoga sangitam, called by the name of yoga, vidyat, may one know, anirvinna chetasa, with the mind that is not discouraged. Saha yogaha, that yoga, nishchayena, with clarity of purpose, yoktavyaha, should be pursued. So it's actually combined both the verses. Cha yam labdhva tatah adhikam aparam labham na manyate yasmin stitaha guruna api dukkhena na vichalyate tam dukkha samyoga viyogam yoga sangitam vidyat anirvinna chetasa saha yoga nischayena yoktavyaha. I mean, these two verses are like a dictate given by, like a mandate given by Krishna. After having gained which, one does not think there is any other better gain than that, established in which one is not affected even by a great sorrow or sorrowful event, may one know that disassociation from association with sorrow to be called what is called yoga as yoga. That yoga should be pursued with clarity of purpose, with a mind that is not discouraged. The person being discussed here does not slip away from the truth of himself or herself, Atma Tattva, because Atma is not some place he or she went to and can return from. When it is said that you go to the abode of Atma and rejoice there, some location comes to mind. And the question then comes, for how long? All kinds of imaginations are therefore possible. You may think it is like going somewhere as a guest, staying as long as you are entertained, and then afterwards coming back. However, when it is clear that remaining with Atma is in terms of knowledge of the Swarupa of Atma, conveyed here by the expression Tattvataha na chalati, then there is no question of ever being away from it, because remaining does not depend even on memory. People sometimes ask, Swamiji, suppose I forget the Atma. You can forget the words I use to point out the Atma, but you cannot forget the meaning of those words once you have understood it. The meaning of the words is Atma. You cannot forget Satchit Ananda. But if Sat is understood by you, Chit is understood by you, and Ananda is understood by you, how can you forget? The words themselves are only the Lakshana of Atma for revealing the nature of Atma. Therefore, they can be forgotten. But the meaning is you. How can you forget you? You cannot, because knowing yourself is not something that is memory based. Even if you lose your memory in an accident or whatever, it is the same. Does loss of memory not affect one's knowledge? People often pose this question also. Swamiji, suppose a jnani, a man who already has self-knowledge, has a car accident and loses the use of all his brain cells. His head is so smashed up. He remembers nothing, not even his own name. Isn't his knowledge of Atma also gone? No. His knowledge is not gone because there was no his knowledge. There was only this self is Brahman. I am Atma Brahma. Recognizing this fact, he was already liberated. There is only one moksha, and that takes place while living. Jivan Mukti. Moksha is a matter of understanding, not of memory. And once you gain this understanding, this knowledge, there is no moving away. Then the question may come, Swamiji, suppose I do gain Atma. Then what should I do? Previously, you had many adventures, and now you are thinking about having an Atma adventure. Naturally, then, you want to know what your next adventure is. The adventure will be after Atma has been gained. You have been to the Caribbean, to Hawaii, you have scaled mountains, skied the slopes, and you've learned how to roller skate. All these adventures being over, you say, let me do some Atma adventure. Let me see what it is all about. Because there are people who keep talking about it, wanting to cover everything, you come to Atma. This wanting to cover everything is a different attitude than that of a mumukshu, of course. Unlike the mumukshu, this person does not want anyone to know more about anything than he or she knows. So this person has this one-upmanship. He wants to know he should be the only one who knows everything. Perhaps the person had heard the word Atma or Brahman at some dinner party, and he or she wants to know what it is all about, so as not to appear ignorant in this particular area. Suppose in the process of finding out, this person gets caught in this particular pursuit and gets this Atma Jnana. Atma now being covered, what would the person do next? Is the question. Some people really think like this. They say they have tried this and that, and they have tried Vedanta also. This verse is for such people. The word gain is used here with just this kind of person in view. The one who always wants to cover all areas. The word gaining, labdva, means knowing, jnatva. The jnana itself is the gain here because it is sukha. This gain is in terms of human ends, purusharthas, what people go after. Gaining Atma, the person does not think na manyate, that there is anything other, apara, that is better than Atma, tataha adikaha, to gain. So I think we'll stop here. So basically, it is not like you're having an adventure. You want to cover all areas, all topics. So you want to cover the topic of Atma also. And then what? There is no question of then what, because that is the ultimate. And so many questions he has answered in the form of, devotees asking questions, as in, what if memory is lost? You may lose the memory of the words used, the lakshanas used, Satchidananda. But once you have the knowledge of this, how can you forget Satchidananda? How can you not be Satchidananda? You cannot forget yourself. You are you. You're not separate from that. So that is what Swamiji's and what Krishna is trying to convey here. Anyone wants to add or say anything? We'll have another minute or so and then we'll close.
In fact, I had an accident case whom I had gone to visit. And in the hospital, it was a person who had gone for dental surgery, and he was given anesthesia. And after that, he rode his bike, on due to which he suffered an accident because he was still under the influence of anesthesia. And he had a brain injury. And he survived that. There was internal bleeding. But when he came around and I went visiting him, he started saying, "Oh, hello, all of you have come. Come, I will bring tea for them," as if he's in his house. So like, I feel that they're in a more happy state. They don't even realize where they are in. And that is, joy is like, they're more connected to Atma, even though the memory is not there. There's a lapse in memory. I don't know. But that state of bliss in which they are, as if nothing has happened.
They have a clean slate at least. No, they don't have all the muck that we have stored in our memory. So probably that is the reason.
So
But
true.
yeah, isn't it? So they're like a child again. They come back to their a clean slate. Their memory is all wiped out. But here, the reason why this is brought in is to say that the knowledge of Atma is not based on memory. It is, even memory is part of the anatma. Memory, intellect, the mind, intellect, memory complex and ahankara complex, they're all also part of anatma. So you don't depend on memory to get this. So even if a person who becomes a jnani, for instance, loses his memory in an accident, he will still remain in that Atma Jnana itself. It's not like his knowledge will get lost because his memory is not there. That is what Swamiji is giving us. Nice. Should we stop here today? We'll continue from, where is that? Is there a better gain than self-knowledge? That we'll continue from tomorrow. Om Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Tat Sat Shri Krishna Arpanamastu. Jai Gurudev.